Now, the most basic thing we need to do when we're creating our websites is to select the elements in our web page in order to manipulate it at a later date. Now, we saw that we can do this in JavaScript by saying something like document.querySelector, and inside here we would add the selector that we want to select, right? So for example, if we wanted the H1, then we can simply say querySelector H1. Now, if we were to write this in jQuery, then we can remove all of this part and instead only have the $sign, which is short for jQuery. So now we're using a jQuery method to select our H1, and you can see how much shorter it is. Now, this works very similarly to querySelector in the sense that inside the parentheses, we're specifying the CSS selector that we would use if we were to select our elements in CSS. And this is because it's the most flexible, the most adaptable, and also can be very specific. So for example, it allows us to say things like we want the H1 that has a class of title, or we want the H1 that's nested inside a div with the ID of header, and that works exactly the same. There's no changes there. But what the jQuery selector allows us to do is when we're trying to select all of our buttons, if you remember from previously, we had to say something like document.querySelectorAll, and then we would select the button in here. Now with jQuery, the $sign again replaces all of this, and it will select all of the buttons on screen. And there's no difference between selecting one or selecting many.